They are three of the deadliest characters to ever be introduced within the Dragon Ball franchise, and after having to separate their powers and having to compare skill and techniques, we pit up Aniraza, Hit, and Kid Buu together in a what-if triple threat battle in showcasing each individual skill and having to battle to the death in order to determine which one of these three characters would emerge victorious. And on today's video, we will be discussing and diving in depth in this triple threat battle involving Aniraza, Hit, and Kid Buu next.
This is the Galactic Emperor of the Universe, and of course I'm here to tell you to subscribe to UnrealEntGaming and all his social media platforms. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications so you can be the first to know every time that he uploads a new video.
Oh, did someone say UnrealEntGaming? Oh my god!
The fuck's up? Put on some clothes!
Well, why don't you put on any clothes?
What? I don't need clothes. Jesus Christ, that's huge!
They are three of the deadliest characters to ever be introduced within the Dragon Ball franchise, and by limiting their power and allowing all three characters to be equal in strength, what would exactly happen if this was a death battle involving skills, techniques, and feats? Between Aniraza, Hit, and Kid Buu, joining me here today to discuss this triple threat what-if battle is my good friend EmoshIslive, as I want to once more remind everyone that this battle, when it involves all three individuals, are equal when it comes to power. That way nobody can say that one fighter is superior than the other, when the concept of power is not a dividing factor in this particular battle. But now when looking at all three individuals and what they have to offer, it's safe to say that all three individuals involved in this fight are incredibly dangerous, especially as many would note, Hit and Kid Buu. And although we've done lots of what if battles before on this channel, such as Hit versus Golden Frieza versus Goku Black, and Jiren versus Beerus versus Vegito, and Vegeta versus Kefla versus Toppo, and those particular battles were all based on powers and feats from the show. However, this triple threat battle evens the playing field for all three characters. Now, Emish, what I wanted to ask you is, what are your initial thoughts going into this battle and seeing what each of these characters can provide from an objective point of view? In your opinion, which character do you believe would stand out the most in having the advantage over the other two, and which character do you believe that by the end would have the best chance at survival when looking at this battle from a narrative where it's objective and where mostly skills, techniques, and feats outclass the nature of power?
Alright, so first and foremost, the thing or the interesting thing about these like triple threat battles or just what if battles with equal power is that, ironically enough, there's always one or two characters in there that can just grow indefinitely, right? Like, i.e. Hit. So in this example, we have Hit, someone who can improve and boost his stats. I think Hermes98 did a translation in reference to Hit's ideology in terms of his growth rate. So it's kind of like, I think the comparison that Hermes98 on Twitter made was that Hit can improve his stats or boost himself equally to how, like, if for those of you guys who play Pokemon, for example, if you use like the growth attack, how it boosts your attack and stuff like that. So Hit can do that basically. When he improves, he basically boosts his stats, which basically means that he gets stronger in some way, shape, or form. Even though it's also stated that even though it's also stated in his fight with Goku in the Universe 6 tournament that when he improved or when he boosted himself or when he looked like he powered up, Goku, I think, makes the statement, if I remember correctly, that he didn't get stronger at all. But the general idea is still the same. So if Hit's time skip is to improve, then you can argue that, well, that would ergo boost the attack potency of Hit and basically improve what he can do. So that's kind of like the thing that Hit has going for him, right? I'm not even going to talk about the time cage because I think the time cage is such a trashy move. It's not really relevant in this fight because Hit has been shown to be worn out when he's trying to sustain it, so I'm not really going to use that as a talking point. Aniraza is just someone that I think he's a pretty cool concept, pretty cool character, has a lot of hacks, a lot of attack-based hacks and stuff like that. He can like warp reality, kind of like Janemba can and stuff like that. He can fly, but who cares about flying because all of these guys can fly for the most part, right? Let's just say that. And yeah, he just changes. He just continues to evolve. So that's that. But the problem is that he has, arguably, out of the three, his weakness makes him the trashiest character in this lineup. And you can literally just punch him on the forehead.
The generator on the head, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a big weakness for him that Hit would just time skip through that, and it's just, for Aniraza, it's a cakewalk for Hit, in my opinion. Same for Buu. Buu just doesn't give a shit. Nothing Aniraza can do will be able to damage Buu. I mean, at least wipe him out completely. And considering that all these fighters are in equal power. Then you look at Kid Buu. Now, Kid Buu is probably the biggest threat for Hit in this fight, only because, well, one, this guy literally generates nonstop, right? He's never really been shown to get tired at all. He's never been shown to showcase signs of fatigue. You could argue that when he was like Fat Buu, when he fought Skinny Buu, but then Fat Buu was actually weakened after, the split. But then you can argue, for example, Super Buu. Super Buu was getting his ass whipped by Ultimate Gohan. So Super Buu, basically Majin Buu, can be damaged physically. And the same thing is actually true with Buhan. So Buhan was actually getting his ass whipped by Vegito, by Super Vegito. So the idea here is that, yes, Hit will be able to improve and boost his stats so much so that he'll be able to stomp on Kid Buu indefinitely. But the problem is that this is where we kind of get into a wall where Hit doesn't have an attack in his arsenal. At least the one that's been showcased. I don't even think I've ever seen him shoot a Ki Blast, if I remember correctly. At least not in the anime. I don't remember.
Barely any, I think.
Yeah. He has nothing in his arsenal that would allow him to indefinitely wipe out literally everything that Kid Buu is. That's the thing, and the proof is here when we talk about Ultimate Gohan versus Super Buu, when we talk about Super Vegito versus Buhan. Even though Super Vegito was kind of just like, smacking him around and just playing with him and stuff like that, it still kind of proves that despite how significantly stronger you are able to damage any iteration of Buu. Buu, for the most part, can regenerate so much so that it doesn't really matter. Now, Emish, what about Fat Buu when he was fighting Kid Buu? Well, you can still assume that Fat Buu was weakened after the split. That's the problem with Fat Buu. So, Fat Buu in his fight was with Kid Buu was just whooping his ass nonstop. And you guys pretty much know the drastic difference between Kid Buu and Fat Buu, right? Despite Fat Buu being considerably weaker than Kid Buu, it still took quite some time before Kid Buu, was basically putting Majin Buu on the brink of
absolutely. With little to no effort, mind you.
Right, so that's the problem. So that's another issue there. So can the same thing happen to Kid Buu? I mean, he is alive. He's a living being of some kind, but it really goes up in the air there. But I think ultimately, logically, when it comes down to who would win in a fight, I think that Hit kind of has the advantage in terms of time skip, and Hit kind of has the advantage in terms of him being able to improve that and boost himself so much so that he would have too much of an upper hand on Kid Buu that would allow Kid Buu to basically get a hand on him. Now, you can argue, well, Emish, what about his Candy Beam? That's also relevant. That's been shown to be able to be dodged. It's a technique that you would have to that would require Hit to be within close range for Kid Buu to even tap him with. So that's right. That. Well, what about absorption? Well, in this fight, I would say, well, since it's a triple threat, the most logical thing to do would be for Kid Buu to absorb Aniraza and then smash on Hit. Now, in that instance, I would say that, yeah, Kid Buu might have the upper hand here because time skip or not, Kid Buu would have access to some of Aniraza's hacks as well, which is like reality warping and all this other junk, right? So even if Hit were to basically, time skip, Kid Buu would gain sensory abilities to be able to sense where Hit is at all times, and he'd be able to react accordingly despite how much Hit would improve himself, because Aniraza has been shown to continuously evolve as well. So if that were the scenario, then I would say, yeah, because it is a triple threat, Kid Buu absorbs Aniraza and it's GG for Hit. But if it's just straight up, one-on-one, and we're not looking at the possibility of Kid Buu being able to absorb Aniraza, because I don't think he could absorb Hit because he won't be able to catch Hit with that attack, then it comes down to Kid Buu versus Hit in a slugfest, in which case I will say that Hit does kind of have more supporting evidence to support the idea of why he would win in an actual fight. Would he be able to kill Kid Buu? I don't think so.
That's the tricky
unless
part.
he wears him, unless he wears him down so much so that he, Kid Buu's life force just gets reduced to nothing. But there's not much evidence to support that either. But we can assume, for the sake of this conversation, that yes, Hit would be able to do something like that as well, without having to resort to an attack that would indefinitely wipe him out. The problem is that ultimately, though, Kid Buu does have the ability to regenerate non-stop, regardless of how much damage he has taken.
That's another problem.
So it comes down to who would win in a fight. Hit would definitely win in a fight. If Kid Buu absorbs Aniraza, Kid Buu stomps on it. GG no Ri, in my opinion.
I definitely think the threat level is there, and I think that what Hit would have to do is adapt to Kid Buu's onslaught. And Kid Buu is very interesting because, as you stated, he doesn't, seem to show any signs of wear downs. His durability factor is insane. When we saw that when Super Saiyan 3 Goku fought him, he even stated, how does he keep it up? He couldn't understand how Kid Buu was able to keep going without even breaking a sweat. So I think that for Hit to emerge victorious, he's going to have to adapt which it's proven before that out of the three, I think Hit is the most adaptable. But I think in terms of hacks, in terms of techniques and moves that a person can use that's devastating, I think that Kid Buu holds that over all, you know, both Aniraza and Hit, given the fact that he can turn them into food, he can eat them, he can easily create copies of himself. We've seen him get blown into millions of pieces and reforming into hundreds upon thousands of copies of himself, you know, like little clones shooting out energy blasts as Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So I think that, and another deadly factor would be the absorption. Now I don't think that Kid Buu would be fully able to absorb Hit because of Hit's time skip, so I think that if Hit is able to sense or even anticipate some sort of absorption, he would get out of the way. But then again, it's like Hit would have to fight Kid Buu at a point where he's targeting his vital spots, and Kid Buu isn't really proven to have any bone structure, any sort of like molecular, you know, muscle mass around his, like, you know, body, for example his neck or his arms. So even if Hit were to go in there and strike his vital points like his jugular vein, perhaps going for his temple or anywhere on his arms or legs, I think Kid Buu would bounce back. It's kind of like punching bubblegum, and I think that with that being said, Hit would have to adapt in a different manner to take him down. Now the thing is, you said, you know, Hit would have to wear him down. The question is, can he? Now, for Hit to wear down Kid Buu, the fight would have to be prolonged so, you know, long enough for the fight to actually favor Hit, but I don't think that Hit would be able to continue long enough without getting tired himself. And that's where things begin to get very interesting, because I don't want to disinclude Aniraza completely. I think that Aniraza would, as a big character, he's very fast, he's very nimble, and I think that he definitely possesses the power potency to literally push back Kid Buu and Hit when it comes to certain stances. But as you pointed out, I think that his biggest weakness is his generator, the structure on his head, because I think that at first neither Kid Buu nor Hit would be able to understand this, but I think that it would be up to Hit to understand where Aniraza's power comes from and targeting that first and foremost while taking him down in the process. So I think that Kid Buu really wouldn't focus too much on Aniraza's weakness. I think that Kid Buu really doesn't care who has what weakness. He would come at you at any given point, you know, in any given way, just to fight you. So I think that when it comes to intelligence, Hit definitely holds that. But my question to you is, in terms of the intelligence factor, in terms of being able to basically, you know, prolong this fight enough to where you're able to understand your opponent better, who out of the three would you say has the advantage in that? And even if we were to disinclude Hit for an X amount of time because of his recovery factor, maybe his adaptability factor, where do you see Aniraza versus Kid Buu, like, in this matter, if Hit were to be taken out for a second just to recuperate while the two battle?
Well, I think personally, just my opinion, that you're looking a little bit too much into like scenario-based events. For example, like how would you script the fight just to make it entertaining? I think you're trying to make the fight entertaining. I think the idea of this conversation is to say, well, who would win logically, based on feats, based on supporting evidence, based on what we've seen from these alleged characters, and then we put them with equal strength, and we say, okay, who would win in a fight? So ultimately, it still comes down to Aniraza's weakness are his generator, but his size also makes him an easy target. That's the issue here. So it's like, you know, even if Aniraza does theoretically have sensory abilities, right, to be able to sense where opponents are, you know, going to show up or where they're going to land, yeah, that might give him an advantage against Hit. But the idea is sensory abilities, in my opinion, at least that, as far as like sound waves and like things like that, you know, because he operates like an android, can only be so limited to someone like Hit, who basically can, you know, who can basically increase the intervals between his time skip. It's literally, you know, he's storing time, making events seem like they're frozen. They're not. The next thing you know, you get hit like.
But do you think Aniraza can adapt to that?
No, I don't. Okay. Aniraza hasn't been shown to adapt to anything. He's just been shown to evolve in terms of having new abilities. That's it. So he's never really been shown to get stronger. So he's just been shown to get some new levels of hacks and abilities that allow him to fight opponents and kind of give him the upper hand despite his size. So that's what it ultimately comes down to. Kid Buu is someone who has always been portrayed to show, you know, to be able to tap into deeper levels of power within himself. So it's like, even if we put all these guys equal to each other, theoretically, Kid Buu can still technically tap into something a lot deeper. And I think the idea, as far as intelligence is concerned, Kid Buu's not stupid either. So it's not like it's because of who Kid Buu is that he doesn't really have to resort to planning things out, right? So for example, look at Fat Buu, the stupidest iteration of the Buus, okay, the dumbest one. All right, this dude was copying Goku's Kamehameha waves and stuff like that left and right. So it doesn't really matter. Like, he was copying attacks. He just by seeing them one time, and that's just from him being a Buu, basically who he is. So the intelligence factor is kind of like, it goes into Hit's favor. And it's also kind of plays into Kid Buu's favor only because it just goes to show that, yeah, to fight against someone like Kid Buu, you have to be extremely intelligent, which kind of caters or portrays just how strong Kid Buu is, not only with power, but just or power alone in this fight, but also his abilities and his hacks and stuff like that. But ultimately, what it comes down to is that Kid Buu and Hit's time skip and Hit's ability to adapt and improve those time skip intervals, I just don't see Majin Buu being able to predict or being able to keep up with those levels of things, because he's never been shown or portrayed to be able to do things like that. If anything, he resorts to like blowing up the planet and stuff like that, and just regenerates. But that's, like I said, that's extremely circumstantial.
But do you think that would cause Kid Buu to further want to absorb him if he knows and understands that he can't really predict or maneuver around Hit's time skip no matter how much he improves?
Yeah, it's kind of like I said, it comes down to scheming and plotting. But in which case, no, if he can't land, if he can't physically touch Hit, he won't be able to absorb him. It's that simple. Unless he purposely takes a hit from Hit and then just like expands himself and tries to grab him. But ultimately, there's still a small time or interval of time in between him expanding his body and jumping over you and turning you into goop and shit like that. So in which case, Hit can easily time skip that. So long as he has stored time, so long as he has that, it's still way too much for Kid Buu to handle, in my opinion. I think Kid Buu has a lot more hacks that would definitely allow him to put up a good fight, but he doesn't really have anything in terms of like him growing and adapting on the same level or the same magnitude that someone like Hit can.
Oh no, when it comes to adaptability, I believe that Hit holds the advantage over both fighters. But also what I wanted to ask you is, what do you believe is the biggest detriment to each character in this fight? We spoke about Aniraza's generator. That's definitely something that could, be a factor in him losing. But looking at both Kid Buu and Hit, what would you consider for them to have the greatest disadvantage in this fight when going into this battle with all three characters?
Well, the fact that Hit basically is only forced to improve when he's sustained X amount of damage. So I think that's kind of like what
so mainly bringing the fight to him.
Yeah, it kind of makes Hit look weak. Like he's already established that, yeah, well, I'm gonna test this guy out and see what he can do, and that's not really something you can do with Kid Buu. That's not someone that you could just test things out with, right? Because one mistake, Kid Buu will end you. So it's just that's an issue for him. And as far as Kid Buu, I think Kid Buu is just, I think in a fight like this, he's too trolly, and it comes down to just him like not really giving a damn because he can't really sustain damage. And to touch upon a point that you made earlier, as far as like vitals and stuff like that, all iterations of the Buus have been shown to sustain damage. So having bone structures and actual vitals is kind of irrelevant because Hit can fight. It's not like just because Hit is an assassin doesn't mean that Hit will just try to kill Buu. That's completely irrelevant. The idea is to put X amounts of damage on this fighter until you wore him down so much that you could just figure out a way of just putting him down indefinitely. So as far as like, I still believe Hit doesn't have anything in his arsenal to kill Kid Buu, but I also think that he would definitely beat Kid Buu in the fight. And as far as Kid Buu's weakness, like I said, he's way too trolly. He kind of like lets you attack him and stuff like that, which is a problem. So if Hit already establishes this guy as a threat, allows him to adapt and stuff like that, Kid Buu is the type of guy that would allow this guy to adapt. He literally sat there and watched Goku, create a massive like spirit bomb. He literally watched him there. So it's like, that it just goes to show you.
Well, to be fair, he did try to attack him, and that didn't really work in his favor.
No, it was come on, like it was blatantly obvious. Like Buu, I think got way too comfortable. That's ultimately it comes down to. Like,
so do you think that's his weakness, is the fact that he would get way too comfortable in this fight?
I mean, like I said, as soon as we saw Kid Buu, he had no interest in fighting. He just blew up the planet right away. So it's just, I mean, obviously it's for the sake of the plot that they wrote him that way. But like I said, I mean, I'm getting more into like extremely circumstantial like territory, and I don't really want to do that. I think logically what it comes down to is just, I would like to say Kid Buu wins because Hit doesn't have anything in his arsenal that would kill him. And Kid Buu is someone you have to kill, by the way. But if that is the case, I think Kid Buu is the type of dude who just ends up blowing up the planet. And I don't see Hit being able to time skip away from that. So ultimately what it comes down to is if Kid Buu were to try to blow up the planet, time skip would still allow Hit to prevent Kid Buu from launching an attack of that magnitude anyway. So like I said, it's still time skip in this essence in this specific fight is really, really, really making Hit look like he's just cock slaps everybody, and it's so that's not how I'm trying to make it seem. But yeah, time skip isn't just something that like you just casually just body, right? Jiren was able to body because he's Jiren. Dispo was able to surpass it only because he prevented Hit from using it. But once Hit uses the time skip, Dispo was getting smacked up.
Yeah, he was able to listen in on his muscle movements and stuff. Kid can't
and
really do that.
and Goku had to take hits for him to figure it out to some degree.
Yeah.
That's something Kid Buu would do, and I think in that regard, Kid Buu might be able to figure it out, but that's what I'm saying. This specific fight is a little too circumstantial. So I think ultimately, if you want my answer, Kid Buu absorbs Aniraza, right? And he just stomps on. I'll give it to Kid Buu because of that. So let's just say Kid Buu absorbs Aniraza, gains his hacks, evolves similarly to the way he does, and he just smacks hit all over the place. That's pretty much what I'm going to say, just to wrap that up.
I definitely believe that by the end of this battle, the most adaptable character in this fight would be Hit, but I'm not really sure how Hit would go up against Kid Buu, knowing the fact that Kid Buu can basically regenerate, he can absorb, he could do various different things as we've seen against Super Saiyan 3 Goku that are unorthodox in nature and very different when it comes to fighting and basically maintaining one's composure, because when Kid Buu loses his mind, like you pointed out, he will go as far as to blow the entire planet up, and then what do, you know? So I think that in my opinion, by the end of this battle, I would have to lean a little bit more towards Hit in this case. However, if you guys feel differently about this, we would like to get your thoughts in the comment section below. Between all three of these fighters, which fighters do you guys believe would be more significant in this battle between Aniraza, Hit, and Kid Buu? Let us know your thoughts down below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If, of course, you guys have any suggestions for future triple threat battles, leave your thoughts in the comment section below as to what kind of battles you guys want to see. Also, your thoughts and opinions on this particular battle. And again, if you guys enjoyed, slap a like down below. If you guys are new to this channel, then make sure you guys go ahead and punch that subscribe button, guys, and more importantly, turn on all notifications to never miss a single upload. Also, if you guys haven't done so already, make sure you guys check out my second and third channels. Links to that will be located down below for Unreal Vlogs and Unreal Network. Thank you all once more for watching. Check out Emosh's channel as well, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you guys down the comment section below. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace.
This is the perfect being. Before I destroy your favorite heroes, I'm going to need you to subscribe to the perfect channel UnrealEntGaming and turn on notifications to never miss a single upload. Also follow UnrealEntGaming on these social media platforms to stay connected at all times. And if you don't, then very soon you will all be dead. Along with your entire planet.